What up, reader fam? Welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself and taking deep breaths. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you some of my 5-star predictions for books that came out in 2020. I've been really bad about keeping up with books that have been coming out this year, but to be fair, my reading has been all over the place, like literally just all over the place, bouncing off the walls, and I'm just glad that I've gotten any reading done in this terrible year that we've been living in. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty terrible at predicting the books that I think I'm going to love. I had this happen recently where I picked up a book and I was like, oh hot dang, I'm gonna love this book, it's gonna be on the top of my favorites list, and then guess what happened? I read the book and hated it with a burning passion. So I'm a little bit nervous about predicting these 5-star reads, but at the same time, I'm pretty confident in the list of books that I put together because I feel like a lot of them are going to satisfy my reading tastes. I've got 5 books that I'm going to be going over today, so without further ado, let's get started. First up here, we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I've gotten so used to people calling this book Addie LaRue that I almost forget its actual title, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This might be the most hyped book of 2020. Let me know down below in the comments if you agree with that. Everybody everywhere is talking about this book. This book takes place in 1714 and we follow the extraordinary life of Addie LaRue. Addie has made a deal with the devil in order to live forever. She's going to be immortal, but with that deal comes a curse that will make her forgotten by everybody that she's ever met. Oh, so what you're saying is making a deal with the devil comes with consequences? Who would have thunk it? With the chance to live forever, it sends her on a soaring adventure through life, but fast forward 300 years and she meets this guy in a bookstore and he remembers her. And with that, everything begins to shift. I know that the feelings around the board have been a rather mixed bag for this one, but I almost feel like I'll be sure to love it because I know what to expect going into a Victoria Schwab book. And I mean that in both the writing style and the elements and themes that are sprinkled throughout her books. Her books do still have a rather unexpected quality to them because you never know what she's going to put out because each book that she puts out is so different from the last, but there are just those similar things where there's like themes that are kind of similar, where the writing is rather similar, it's just kind of leveled up. I know that a lot of the criticism in this book has been towards the romance and how underwhelming it is, but the romance element in Victoria Schwab's books have never really been the strongest in my opinion. And honestly, that doesn't bother me one bit because I never go into Victoria Schwab's books expecting to get anything out of that. Like I never look for her books for the romance element. Like there's so many other things that I love about Victoria Schwab's books. Instead, I go in hoping for all the magic, all the chaos, all the adventure, all the monsters, and all the madness. And I feel like when I read her books, I just feel how much work she's put into it. You can really tell that she pours her heart and soul into the pages. And for me personally, I think that she's great at executing concepts. She takes a concept and she chops it the heck up in the best way possible. And this book sounds dark and magical and terrifying and wonderful all at the same time. Like we're following a girl who's made a deal with the devil. That's pretty dark. Dark. I have a hunch that this one is going to be a bit on the sad side because every person that Addie meets forgets her. Like how can that not be sad? I feel like my mental health would be at an all-time low if that happened to me, so really interested in seeing how that all goes, and I feel like I will have to be in the right mindset before reading this book, otherwise I will fall into a hole of sadness and I will not be able to climb out of it. Next up, we have A Song of Wraiths and Ruin. I cannot say wraiths to save my life. Like it just sounds so weird and it comes out so weird. Wraiths. Dear Lord help me. I had seen this book being talked about like everywhere over the summer, but never really had a chance to kind of look into the description until I filmed an Epic Adaptations episode, which if you don't know what Epic Adaptations is, it's a series that I have over on the Epic Reads YouTube channel. I will leave some links down below to some of those videos. And I had to look into the description for this book because it's being turned into a movie. And oh my, I had no idea how shook I could be by a description, but I was shook. Shookity shook. Like so shook. What is this concept? I'm here for it. It completely sold me on wanting to read it, and it just sounds like it's going to be a banger of a book. Like a banger. This is the first in a West African inspired fantasy duology, and we follow 2 perspectives. First up, we have Malik, whose sister has been abducted, and he ends up making a deal in order to get his sister back. That deal being to kill Corinna. Who's Corinna, you ask? Well, she's our other perspective. Corinna is the crown princess, and her mother was just recently assassinated, so she decides that she is going to try and resurrect her through ancient magic. The only thing is that it requires the heart of a king. So what does she do? She holds a competition to find somebody to marry. That way she can get a king, kill him, take his heart, and resurrect her mom. And guess who enters the competition? Malik. You see where this is going, right? Absolute chaos. I'm losing it with how great it sounds. I have become a sucker for enemies to lovers, and I just think that this could potentially be led in that direction. I feel like this is a book that could be like overflowing with tension to the point where it's going to lead to to a finale that's gonna straight up combust, and I'm here for that. I'm ready for it. I'm buckled in, let's go. Actually, now that I think about it, it's probably gonna end up with a plot twist cliffhanger combo, so perhaps I'll be the one combusting. The next book I have on my list is A Heart So Fierce and Broken. It's actually wild to think that this book came out in 2020 because it really feels like it came out like a year ago. This is the sequel to A Curse So Dark and Lonely, which I will tell you what the first book is about. That way I don't spoil myself in looking into what the second book is all about. It's a fairy tale retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and honestly kind of one of the better fairy tale retellings I've read. And this is coming from somebody who's kind of a little bit over fairy tale retellings. I'm not over them completely, I just feel like the young adult category is kind of oversaturated with them right now. I don't know. Anyway, in this book we follow Prince Frin, who has basically destroyed his family and his kingdom through his ruthless destruction. And then on the other hand, we follow Harper, who lives in our world, but is one day led through a portal after trying to save another girl from being taken by this weird, creepy guy. And then it kind of backfires and she's taken by this weird, creepy guy into the portal, and now she's in Prince Frin's world. Prince Frin and Harper don't really see eye to eye, but together they must come together and work together to break a curse. Together, together, together. I feel like a big reason as to why I might end up loving this one isn't because I loved the first one, but because of the fact that we get a perspective from one of the side characters that was my favorite in the first book. Like, he became a ride or die for me. I low-key didn't care that much about Prince Frin. I cared a little bit about Harper, but this character, this specific character, which I'm not saying his name because I don't want to spoil you, but this character, this specific character was just so great, so interesting, and just the best. The first book ended in a way where it just had me so curious as to where the second book could go. And I'll be honest, I'm a little bit nervous about second book slump. Like, I really hope that this book doesn't like fall into that category where the second book just ain't that great, but I'm gonna go in hopeful and hope that I come out of it giving it a 5 out of 5 stars. Next on my list, I have Super Fake Love Song. I read David Yoon's debut book last year, Frankly in Love, and I loved that book. It was it for me. I feel like it was my top favorite of last year. It was high up there on my list if it wasn't my top favorite, but I'm pretty sure it was. I mean, the fact that I can only think about that book being on the top of last year's favorites list for me is saying something, I think. Like, I think that that means that that was the book for me in 2019. So to say that I'm excited for Super Fake Love is an understatement. I am through the roof, over the moon, up in space. That's how excited I am. In this book, we follow our main character, Sunny, who ends up getting caught in a bunch of lies after a girl that he is interested in stumbles into his brother's room, which is full of guitars, and mistakes it for Sunny's room. So what does Sunny do? He makes things worse for himself and is like, oh yes, this is my room, these are my guitars, also I'm the lead in a rock band. Lie after lie after lie. None of those things are true. And as you can imagine, the lie just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So throughout the book, Sunny, our main character, is trying to keep up this lie and make sure that this girl that he is interested in doesn't find out the truth. I feel like this book is going to end up being a storm of drama, and that's a storm that I'm willing to walk in without an umbrella. Bring on the drama! I really love David Yoon's writing style. I don't know if this really makes sense, but I feel like his writing style has a lot of personality to it. It makes sense to me, but I don't know if it fully makes sense to other people when I say that. His last book, Frankly in Love, just had such a feel-good tone to it, even though it did kind of cover some hard-hitting topics, and I'm hoping that we get that feel-good tone here. I'm really looking forward to this one, and I hope it ends up in my 5-star bag. Finally, the last book on my list is These Violent Delights. To put this book simply, it's a retelling of Romeo and Juliet set in Shanghai in the 1920s. And that's all I'm going to tell you about it because that's all I know about it, but that alone had me sold on it. Like, I want to read it, give it to me. I need this book in my hands so I can read it with my eyeballs. It's a historical fantasy book, and that's something that I have been craving lately. Like, my stomach has been grumbling for a historical fantasy, so I need to be fed. I've realized that over time I'm really drawn to books like that bring in both a fantastical element and historical element. Like, I love that. Something about that combination does it for me. This is a debut author, so I don't know much about her writing style yet, but I did read the prologue and the first chapter, and I am already invested. Like, I've put the key in, turned it, I'm fully locked and loaded, let's go. Please end up on my 5-star list. Alright guys, so those are 5 books that have been released or are to be released that I feel like are going to get a full-on 5 out of 5 stars from me, which I really hope ends up happening. Again, I'm really bad at predicting 5-star ratings, honestly, but We'll see what happens. I'm gonna go into each of them just hoping for the best. I think I'll do an update video once I've read all of these books and just kind of let you guys know how I ended up feeling about them, if they did end up with the 5 out of 5 stars or not. But now I want to hear from you guys. What are some books that have come out in 2020 or have yet to come out in 2020 that you haven't read yet, but you're hoping will end up being a 5-star read for you? Let me know down below in the comments. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye.